Good morning, everyone. In today's current affairs lecture, we will be paying attention on man versus animal conflict, where things are actually going wrong, due to which we are seeing a continuous confrontation between people and animals. The reason why I have to taken up this particular issue is, as we all know, just few days back we have seen the death of an elephant named Saumya in the Palakkad district of Kerala, and we all know what are the reasons for its death. This particular elephant called Saumya, it has to consume the jackfruit filled with firecrackers and eventual bursting out of these firecrackers in its mouth, and that eventually led to death of the pregnant elephant. The death was mourned across the country, especially in the social media platforms. We have seen people pouring in messages in different forms by expressing their sadness to the death of this animal. So, as a human being, I too felt very much sentimental, felt saddened regarding the death of this particular elephant. But at the same time, as an individual who is also preparing for the civil services or aspiring to become a civil servant, I started thinking like, see here, I would like to go beyond the just the sentimental aspect of one particular elephant. I would like to know more these kind of instances where yesterday we have seen one death, day before yesterday we have seen another one, tomorrow we may have seen another one. Why this continuous conflict happening between man and the animals, due to which we are seeing the sufferings of these animals into the hands of the men? What are the reasons for this? Why there is a continuous growing conflict between man and animals? What are the reasons for this? So this is the context. So in the coming slides we will be knowing the details, like what are the reasons for the growing conflict between people and animals, and do we have any legal provisions to regulate this. At the same time, what should be the way forward? So in this way, the broad structure of this particular analysis goes, because as an UPSC aspirant, I would like to go into comprehensive analysis rather than just going for a knee-jerk reaction. Knee-jerk reaction means like how majority of the people react whenever if any issue comes up, because right now we all got connected via social media. So anywhere in any nook and like in any corner of the country, if any incident happens, now we are seeing people started pouring messages, especially the sentimental ones. But this will not last longer. It stays for a time being, and after that, it slowly like the issue will come down, and people also they will get another issue, then they'll start for few days they will discussing about it. But for the individuals who are preparing for the civil services, they should go for broader analysis with respect to the happening of deaths of these animals in the hands of the people. So in that context, I link this particular death of this elephant to the man versus wild conflict. This particular information where we can use in GS paper 3, in the general studies paper 3, we have a topic called as environment. In environment and biodiversity, there we will be discussing about the challenges to the environment. So because of the interventions by the people, there this information will be useful. At the same time, whenever you're writing any essay on sustainable development or environment related essays, or development man versus wild conflict related essays, there this information will be very much useful for you. So here I gave the whole broad structure of how the whole lecture will go on. As right now we paid attention on what exactly the issue, we linked that to the subject in the syllabus. Now we will be paying attention on the three major areas: the reasons for growing man-animal conflict, various legal provisions to safeguard animal rights in the country. At the same time, to these growing challenges, in what way we have to tackle it. So in that way, the whole broad structure of the given topic goes. Now, in that, if you come to the first one, that is the growing concerns, especially in the man-animal conflict. So what are the major reasons for that? So these reasons we can first, as we all know, if any issue we have to discuss, that particular issue can be discussed under certain broad dimensions. So in this particular issue, I have taken these five broad dimensions: political, economical, environmental, administrative, and socio-cultural dimensions. In these given five dimensions, I would like to present the views regarding the growing challenges between man and animal. So, now if you see the reasons for the growing concerns, if you see the first one, the first and foremost thing is, as I mentioned here, the way the development is happening in the country. So, though we have the concept of sustainable development, that means while going for the developmental aspect, that means development means here the holistic development of the individual and the society, rather than a development of one individual or one group of individuals or one particular region. So, when we are going for the development, if we do not pay attention to the environment, then definitely, because environment is consisting of people, animals, birds, and other living and non-living entities. So because of the narrower objective of development, so for us development means construction of the buildings, construction of the roads, coming up with large industrial projects. So this clearly disrupting what you call the sustainability. Suppose, for example, if you see recently, on one side the COVID-19 challenge is going on, but still the government in Assam gave permission for what you call digging of coal in one of the coal mines. This particular coal mine is located in one of the protected areas in Assam. This protected area is with respect to this with respect to elephant. It's an elephant reserve. There, the government gave permission. So in this way, because we want to extract coal, definitely we need coal. But if you continuously dig the coal without paying attention on the environment, then definitely what will happen? It shrinks the space that is there as a habitat for the animals to live. Where they can stay? Where they can stay then? Then definitely they have to come to the places where where the population is staying. Okay. And second thing is, like, if you see here, environmental clearances, because we are in a hurry to achieve the $1 trillion growth. Right now we are into the $3 trillion. Now we want, by 2025 we want to go for the $5 trillion. Later we are planning for the $7 trillion. Sky is the limit. Okay, if you keep on increasing your growth by giving continuous permissions without taking the environment into consideration, especially right now, if you see, now everywhere the governments are saying, like, we have to go for the structural reforms, we have to boost the growth. Why we have to boost the growth? Because COVID-19, the present COVID-19 challenge reduced the amount of growth. It reduced to very minimal number, like 2 to 3%. So we want to again revive back the growth. If you want to revive back the growth, then you have to go like you have to increase the manufacturing activity, you have to increase the industrial activity, you have to increase the service sector activity and agricultural activity. So for that, the government, if the government provides more environmental clearances, ultimately affects whom? Ultimately affects the environment. The environment means here consisting of animals and bird species. This is the first challenge, the narrower objective of development. Second one is, if you see, so we have different legal provisions to deal with animals, like to protect the animal rights. Suppose, for example, we have Prevention of Cruelty on Animals Act 1960. We have Wildlife Protection Act 1972. These two acts, particularly, suppose, for example, if you see, the Prevention of Cruelty is for all the animals. When it comes to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it is specifically for those animals who are into the wild areas, especially the forest areas. There, if you see, we already in that particular act, there is a provision. If at all, if there is uncontrolled growth of one particular animal, then the government is allowing to consider that as a vermin. Vermin means what? These are the vermin means any animal population that is growing beyond the limit. In that case, we have the right, like we can cull or we can sterilize that particular animal. Okay, so government gave this permission. So suppose, for example, if you take the state of Kerala, in the state of Kerala, if you see right now, why this jackfruit actually filled with firecracker there? That was not actually, they don't, the people who did that, they did not have the intention to kill the elephant, because these kind of methods they will follow actually to trap the wild boars. So, so because the wild boars are actually what you call damaging the agricultural crops. So, as a protective measure, these people fill the firecracker in the jackfruit. Actually, here it is the responsibility of the state government, okay, to reduce the population of the wild boars. But the state government did not take the responsibility, though it was given permission under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Okay, to control the population of vermin. Vermin means the uncontrolled population of any particular animal. But because the state government did not took up the responsibility, then the responsibility was taken up into the hands of the people. When the responsibility is within the hands of the people, then they will follow their own measures, their own protective measures. That's why they have to go for this kind of measure. So this is the second one. Next is, if at all, suppose for example, we are seeing there are individuals so who are actually, suppose for example, they will go for the poaching. Okay, suppose if you take the case of Assam itself, there we have this rhino poaching. Okay, we have a national park there, Haziranga National Park. So there is a huge poaching of what you call these rhinos in the Kaziranga National Park. There, but still the forest officials could not able to nab the culprits. Okay, so here comes the administrative inefficiency of the local administration and the forest administration. They could not able to tackle this. Sometimes they say like it is due to the lack of what you call, because of the vacancies or lack of effective tools to deal with those culprits. By citing reasons, they could not able to tackle these problems. And another one, if you see, due to the increased population and urbanization, more amount of places, the habitats that are actually for the wildlife, that is actually getting converted into habitations for the people. Eventually, what is happening here? It is shrinking the habitat of the wildlife. Okay, so eventually, what is happening? The wildlife is getting shrinking. Sorry. Suppose if you see the example in the state of Karnataka. In the state of Karnataka, 60% of the elephant population, that means more than 50% of the elephant population, they are actually residing outside the protected areas, because protected areas are for the animals to stay there. But the protected areas are getting shrinked. Most of the elephants, they have to stay outside the protected areas. So outside the protected areas means where we have, outside the protected means where we have these human habitations. They have to be near to the human habitations. So because the reason here is shrinking of the habitat of the wildlife. Okay. So this is another reason. If you go for another one, see here, there is a committee. There is a committee called as Madhav Gadgil Committee. This Madhav Gadgil Committee, it gave its report to the government with respect to Western Ghats. So it wants, suppose, according to the Madhav Gadgil Committee report, it wants the whole Western Ghats, starting from Kerala up to this Maharashtra. It wants the whole Western Ghats to be considered as a ecologically sensitive zone, ESZ, ecologically sensitive zone. So when Madhav Gadgil Committee gave its report to the government, and in that report it recommended to consider the whole Western Ghats region as ecologically sensitive zone, but the government did not consider this. The reason? If the whole Western Ghats region, suppose if it is considered as ecologically sensitive zone, then lot many developmental projects can be halted. So, because the developmental projects will be halted if the whole region is being considered as ecologically sensitive zone, government did not accept these recommendations. Later, government appointed another committee that is called as Kasturi Rangan Committee. This Kasturi Rangan Committee, under its recommendations, it diluted some of the recommendations of the Madhav Gadgil report. It showcases the political pressure exerted by the locals, or by the politicians at the state or the central level, just because they have their own reasons to do that. But ultimately it is costing what? It is costing the environment. Okay, so in this way, increased political pressure, okay, for the narrow development is costing the environment, eventually shrinking the space for the wildlife habitat. That's the reason they have to come to the human habitations. That's the reason there is a continuous conflict. Whenever this comes, there are different ways. Suppose, for example, let me give you a very simple example. Whenever the rainy season comes, before the rainy season comes, we will be seeing the coming up of the snakes onto the roads, coming up of the snakes onto the nearby, what you call, suppose for example, if you are residing near to the outskirts of the city, there most probably we will be seeing the snakes. Whenever we come across any snake, immediately what we do, we feel like it's a threat to us, we will try to kill it. Though we know that we can call to the nearby wildlife officials, they can come and they can catch the snake and they can leave it to another place, but we don't provide them a chance. Simply what we do, we will kill the snake because we feel like we are more powerful than it. So that's why we will take these kind of what you call drastic steps. But why they have to come? Because we have to understand one particular point here. Are we encroaching into their places, or they are coming to our places? We are feeling like they are coming to my home, but actually that is their home. So here actually comes the animal rights concept. Okay, but because lack of awareness, then we have people actually will be taking these kind of steps. Then next one is what you call, this is the illegal trading. So there is an organized crime involved in it. Suppose if you see, this trading with the endangered species, like trading with the animal, elephant tusk, rhino horns. Okay, and there is the most famous one. This is what you call this pangolins. We have also recently, you might heard star turtles. Star turtles. So they were being secretly traded to other countries because of the meat, the turtle meat. Same is the case with pangolins. If you see pangolins, pangolins actually got a symbiotic relationship. So they are actually what we call pangolins are the natural pest controller. They will eat the insects. They will be near to the crops. They will eat the insects. Thereby, they will not allow the insect to come and what you call eat the whole crop. But right now, what's happening? Because there is a huge demand for the pangolins, especially for their meat and scales, as in China. In Chinese traditional medicine, they will be using the scales of pangolins, and there is a huge demand for the meat of the pangolin. Those who haven't known this, just go and check in the Google. You will come to know. It's a very beautiful animal. So due to the demand and this commercial angle involved into it, so what these people are doing, though there is a ban that is there on trading of the pangolins, but still people are trading this illegal trading of animals. So this again creating a threat to the endangered species. So some of the suppose for example these are the very threatened and endangered species. So we have an international organization called as IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. Okay, so under which so we have different categories of what you call species. Species according to the threat perception got categorized as endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, near threatened, like that. So there are species that are endangered. Even these species also are getting traded illegally. This again creating challenges for the survival of these animals. And next one, if you see, take the case of, as I told you, here on one say, see, as when that elephant's death took place, immediately we started blaming the state, we started blaming the district, we started blaming the people. But one thing we didn't understand is that why the people who are into or who are nearby to that wildlife habitats, why they have to take up these steps? Because they are investing into the agricultural field to protect their agricultural farms. They have to come up with some kind of protective measures. If government comes up with effective measures, they no need to follow or they no need to go through these methods like electrocution. Electrocution means using the by using the electricity to kill the animal, or snare traps. Snare traps means using the threads to trap the animal, or sometimes shooting. Sometimes like what happened recently, the spilling of explosives into the fruits. The reasons for all this is that because of the ineffective decision making of the government. What the government has to do before the crop is being damaged or the getting damaged by the wildlife, government should come up with certain measures. Rather than doing that, what the government is doing, the government has to give some subsidies to the farmers. Okay, you come up with these kind of measures. You come up with some sound systems. Okay, come up with some alarms so that the animals will not be coming nearby your field. If you do not come up with these kind of measures, once the crop got damaged, then you say that okay, we will provide compensation. But the compensation also will not be coming on time. Then what will happen? Then obviously the farmers has to take up these kind of drastic steps. So that's why now the question is, so there's a moral question that got involved here. If I do not take up these kind of measures, the animals are coming and destroying my agricultural fields. Suppose in any one given situation, if I have to go for this kind of what you call this kind of major step like killing of an animal, it is creating a huge furor or huge discussion point, especially in the social media, because right now it's very much easy for people to discuss. But most of these people, they are the real culprits. See, you won't change your food habits. You will not pay attention on a wastage. You will not pay attention on commercialization. But because now everybody got access to the everybody got the voice because of the social media, you will come to social media and you will start what you call spreading as if like you are the only one who are fighting against all these things. So these things won't be sufficient. Just coming to the Twitter, coming to the Facebook or Instagram and expressing your sadness, that won't be helpful. That won't give anything to that particular animal. If these animals has to be saved, then we have to think beyond just pouring up of messages. Okay, so in that way, again here the ineffective decision making of the government. So this is also another challenge that we have to rectify. Next, if you go to the do we have any legal provisions? Do we have any legal provisions or the laws to safeguard animal rights? As everybody knows, in India, we don't have any scarcity of laws. We have enough laws to deal with any problem. But the only problem is everybody knows the answer: implementation. But okay, for our understanding, because if you add these articles or these statutory provisions, it gives a value addition to your answer. Rather than writing a layman's answer, if you use these specific constitutional provisions or the statutory provisions, then definitely it adds value addition to your answer. So accordingly, if you see, in the Indian constitution, if you take, for suppose, if you take the direct principles, or before that, if you take fundamental duties, in the given 11 fundamental duties, one of the fundamental duties says that it is our responsibility, that is, it is the fundamental duty of the citizens or the individuals, okay, to protect wildlife and having a compassionate attitude towards the living creatures, all the living creatures. Okay, same is the case with direct principles. In the Constitution assigned certain responsibilities even to the state. Here, state means both the central government and the state governments. So, the Constitution assigns certain responsibilities to the center and the states. Suppose, for example, if you see Article 48. So, the state has to organize agriculture and animal breeds in such a way that it has to follow the modern scientific methods. At the same time, these methods has to be sustainable. So, the Constitution assigned this responsibility of what you call organizing agriculture and animal breeds onto the state. Same is the case with another article. If you see Article 48A, it is the duty of the state, it is the responsibility of the state to protect, safeguard, and improve not only the forests but also the wildlife in the country. So the Constitution actually vested these responsibilities to the state. It does not mean that only the state alone should be responsible for this. Along with the state, the individuals too are responsible. But the Constitution specifically assigned this responsibility to the state. Okay, so the state has to take this responsibility. But due to the ineffectiveness in implementation of its provisions, so we are seeing the increasing challenge between man and animal. Next, if you see, there are like, suppose for example, if you take the case of schedules of the Indian Constitution. In the given 12 schedules of the Indian Constitution, if you take the seventh schedule deals with the list system. Union list, state list, concurrent list. In both state list and the concurrent list, in state list means very specific to the state, concurrent list means both for the center and the state, the Constitution assigns certain responsibilities. Certain responsibilities like, suppose for example, prevention of cruelty and coming up with certain legal measures so that the wildlife habitat also can live in their habitat. At the same time, they will not come and damage the property or the agricultural fields. It not only assigned this responsibility to the center and the states, but under the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, under the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1993, under the 11th schedule, we even assign some of the responsibilities even to the Panchayati Raj institutions, PRIs, Panchayati Raj institutions. Even Panchayati Raj institution means here what we are speaking about the local governments. Even the local governments also got the responsibility to take care of the wildlife in their surroundings. Okay. Along with these constitutional provisions, so we have certain statutory provisions, like suppose for example we have this Indian Penal Code. Under IPC, suppose if there is either killing or poisoning or doing any kind of cruel activity, brutal activity against animals, until they are specifically mentioned in any of the statutory provisions. Suppose for example we will kill the sheep, okay, and we used to kill what you call chickens, but these are legally given permission. Until otherwise killing is legally permitted, okay, if any individual, if they kills any of the animal or poisons any of the animals, then under section 428 and section 429, under these two sections 428 and 429, it's a punishable offense. That's why onto the street also. Onto the street, if you see any dog, if you are brutally threatening it, if somebody brutally either beating it, then if you file a complaint, they can be arrested because you do not have the right to beat that particular street animal. And we have, suppose for example, there is another one. Previously, whenever we used to come up with any new, what you call, cosmetics, like sprays, perfumes, lipsticks, previously we used to test these on animals. And especially after the 2014 drugs and cosmetics amended rules, now this is strictly prohibited. Now you cannot, there shouldn't be any clinical trials with respect to drugs and cosmetics on the animals. If at all you have to do anything, then there need to be a strict procedure for that. Okay, so like that we have these provisions to deal with to deal with what you call animal related crimes. Okay, so but still, as we discussed, the reasons why we could not able to implement all these provisions, as we mentioned, because of the what you call political compulsions, developmental side, and because of some of the illegal activities. All these are the reasons for that. So now the final thing is, though because we have these challenges, can't we overcome these challenges? Yes, definitely we can overcome, but for that we need to take up certain steps. Suppose if you take the case of India, unlike other countries, India is not that much bad when it comes to what you call providing rights to its animals. So for this, the proof is there is a non-governmental organization NGO called as Wildlife Protection Association. This, according to this Wildlife Protection Association, it's an England-based, UK-based NGO. According to the Wildlife Protection Association, it every year it releases one index called as Animal Protection Index. So, under the Animal Protection Index, there used to be certain categories. Suppose, for example, there will be from category A to category Z. According to the country-specific uh, promotion and protection of animal rights, this particular index will provide categories. If you take the case of India, India right now comes under category C. It means we are not such a bad performer when it comes to protecting the rights of the animals. But still, above C, we have A and B categories. Suppose, for example, countries like Sweden, countries like Norway, countries like UK, they comes into the category A. Okay, so it means they have furthermore better animal protection laws, and they are better able to protect the rights of the animals. Whereas in the case of India, though we are far better comparing with other countries, but still it is not complete. Still we have challenges. So this particular point we have to remember. Next thing is like what we have to do. The first and foremost thing, as I mentioned here, we should have wildlife corridors. Suppose if at all there is a road, let us try to have a small bridge onto the road. Suppose for example there is a road that is passing through one particular what you call either sanctuary or reserve, because both sides of the road we have the wildlife sanctuary. Then if the animal has to move, most of the times what will happen, whenever the night comes, then the animals will come onto the road. They are not actually coming onto the roads. We actually laid down the road. So now what we have to do? So we have to provide developmental opportunities to people. At the same time, we should allow a smooth movement of these animals. Then we should have these kind of wildlife corridors. We can construct one what you call foot-over bridge kind of wildlife corridors, so that the animals can easily move from one place to another place without getting met with accidents. Okay, so here I have taken an example of one of the wildlife tiger, one tiger reserve in Uttarakhand, Rajaji Tiger Reserve. There they actually did this. There they came up with this one elephant corridor like this. There the elephants can move very freely without any without any human intervention. So that if you come up with these kind of things, you could reduce the conflict because they are able to roam freely. Then we don't be having any problem. Second thing is when it comes to vermin, so they need to be effective control. If at all there is an increase in population of one particular animal, then we have to reduce their population. So we have reduced to such a level that it balances the what you call both what like the population of the habitat and the food chain. So like that we have to take up some of the initiatives. Next is like as I mentioned, when it comes to protecting the farmers, because why the farmers has to take, because in general when it comes to these kind of wild animals, if the individuals are illegal traders, those individuals will be poaching the animals. But when it comes to farmers, in most of the occasions farmers do not want to kill the animal. But why sometimes the farmer has to take up these kind of steps? The reason, because they are invading the agricultural fields. To stop that they have to take. So if you are able to provide better what you call with the help of technology, okay, if you are able to come up with better managing practices, then the farmers also will not take up these kind of what you call uh, drastic measures, the measures that are actually creating a pain to the animal. So we have to provide some kind of subsidies to the farmers for these kind, for getting this kind, for getting any technology driven equipment or to follow certain methods. And the next one is we have this National Board for Wildlife. So we have, I mentioned, two acts here. One is what you call Prevention of Cruelty on Animals Act 1960. Second one is Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Under Prevention of Cruelty on Animals Act 1960, there is a board called as Animal Welfare Board. So there is a board named Animal Welfare Board. Whereas under the Wildlife Protection Act, so we have a board called as, we have an executive body called as National Board for Wildlife. The first one is to protect the rights of the animals. The second one is to protect the rights of the animals, especially in the forest areas. At the same time, whenever if any developmental project comes up, they have to give permissions. So while giving permissions, this National Board for Wildlife, it should be very much careful. If it is diverting large scale forest land for the sake of development, ultimately it shrinks the habitat space for the wildlife. If the habitat space for the wildlife is getting shrinked, then You should be ready to face the conflict. If that is not to happen, then the National Board for Wildlife, rather than compromising in signing the what you call in signing the deals to divert large scale forest land, it should be careful whenever, if at all, there is a possibility to divert, it should be very much careful. Along with that, finally, awareness campaigns. Like we have to create awareness to people. Why? Suppose, for example, if at all, if they have seen any wild animal, immediately they have to report to the local authorities, and they will be reporting to the forest officials. They will come in the rescue of the animals. In most of the occasions, whenever you open the newspaper, we will be seeing like animal tiger got trapped into the what you call fencing, that was rescued by the forest officials. Elephant got trapped into the mud and rescued by the forest officials. We will be seeing this kind of information. So, like this, we have to create awareness to people. We should tell to people that the responsibility should be taken up not only by the forest officials but also by the civil society. The people who are really fighting for animal rights, they should fight for in this way. They should create awareness campaigns. Like that, if we are able to do, then in the coming future, it's like live, let others live. We also can live safely. The wildlife also can live safely. We will not be seeing the repetition of the death of Saumya like elephant. Okay, so here I would like to end the session with the quote of Mahatma Gandhi. If you see the quote, that quote is sufficient just to mention how much importance that was given by Gandhi to the wildlife. The greatness of a nation and its progress can be judged by the way its animals are protected. So, with that note, I am concluding the topic. Thank you.